Hey everybody, we're back at this wonderful studio. This is D'ART Shtajio. We're going to be discussing today's anime, all of the characters, what we're going to be doing for this opening, and I have a really irresponsible and misplaced music to go along with this opening, because it's a lot more exciting than nothing, you know. Alright, so welcome everybody. We have our cast of characters, Arthel and Henry.
Hey,
How you guys doing today?
pretty good.
Good.
I'm good. Yes.
I brought. Everyone seems to be pretty good. I did bring a treat. This comes from Okinawa. This is thanks to your super chats. You paid for it. You eat it. Well, they can't eat it because it's on the other side of the camera. These are really good Okinawa Beni Imo tarts. They're purple potatoes. They're known for that area, and it's quite famous in the fall to eat these up here in the Tokyo Honshu area. We're gonna nibble on these as we talk about anime and manga and wonderful stuff, right? Exactly. All right, and look at Arthel busting out the tea.
Green tea.
Nice.
Only garbage in Japan.
Yes. All right, everybody. I'm also filming a making of, by the way. So I just left a camera up here. Hey, did you guys make this in the background? This one?
We made a pilot film based off of that.
Wow.
So Genesis.
All right.
Based off
I told you these guys are big time. Like we were like, D'ART who? D'ART Shtajio. All right, Henry, have a seat and hold position.
I'm sitting over there.
Yeah. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the characters, how this anime opening is going to be going, and you out there in the internet world are going to get a chance to decide how this opening looks, or at least have some influence over it, because if something stinks so bad, you're going to let me know. I have a feeling that hardcore anime lovers are going to say, nah, nope, that's not going to work, nope. In the last meeting, I radically changed the plans. Was it radical? Would you call that radical, Henry?
I would say it was seismic.
Seismic?
Difference, yeah.
Seismically changed the plans. I didn't know how big it was. Not, for me, editing, I just can change things around, but when it goes to animation, it's not that easy. Although in my mind it was easy. No?
Well, we're still in the concept stage.
Okay,
so
good.
If you're at any point in the process going to have radical change of ideas, now is the only time you're allowed to do that, right? Because later on, if we have key animation already done, to change something at that point is to just delete all the work we've done and then
we
start.
wouldn't want to do that.
Exactly. So right now, we're still okay
Yeah.
to change it however we want. It's just, we're just throwing out ideas. It's just words at the moment.
All right, so what are the stages, Henry, of creating an animation?
In Japan, usually the stages are obviously like story meeting and figuring out, exactly what is being made. Then once you decide exactly what is going to be made, you have to send that off to a storyboard artist. Usually the character designs are done around the same time. Maybe that comes first so that the storyboard artist can base their storyboards off of it's actually going to look like. Storyboards are finished. Once the director okays that, then you move forward with the animation. So you start passing out cuts to layout artists, Gangaman as they're called here in Japan, which is like layout and key animation kind of mixed into one job. When they finish their layouts, then you just kind of go through the different stages of the animation director, the director, the art director, kind of just checking everything that gets handed in and reworking it all the way through until the final step, which is in between animation and shiage and color. There's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of people. I mean, if I'm gonna list like in any given sequence, how many people work on any given sequence? The director, the enshutsu, the technical director, the writer, theoretically, right? Then you've got your storyboard artist, your layout artist, secondary key animator, sometimes that's a different person, in between animator, shiage, scan and color person, satsue person for compositing, and an editor, and a music person.
Oh, music person. Okay.
And so we're already past my hands. We're up to 11 people guaranteed for any given sequence.
All right, you can keep. Are you finished now?
I think
There's
so.
more?
I think so, but I probably did miss a person or two.
Oh, okay. I should have started with like a rap song. That was a rap, man. That was a lot of information. I do have inappropriate and not well placed music to liven this up. So at any moment I might just start music because it's more exciting that way. Well, not that this is boring. This is actually quite interesting. How is it different than the United States or another country?
I can't speak for like every studio in the West, which actually says something in itself. In Japan, almost every studio follows the same method, and so I can say with confidence that the method I just explained is pretty much the method for any given studio, right? In the West, in my experience, everyone is their own entity, so they have their own kind of pipeline for each individual studio. I'd say that layout artist and key animator are almost certainly different people in the West. Here in Japan, a Gengamon is someone that looks at scribbly storyboards and then has to make the sequence themselves, essentially. Draw in the background, draw in the characters, everything. In the West, in my experience, the key animator is handed a background by a person that already kind of laid out what the sequence looks like. So, anyway, it's just a different process.
Fascinating. It's amazing how music can also change the tide.
Yeah, it's like
This makes me it also makes me sound very sophisticated.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing how canon can change it. So, without further ado, let's unbox this while you process the process. Because that was the process, right? Help yourself.
Oh, thank you.
You guys can have one as well. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much.
Tea time. So I have my own thoughts on this. Basically, I'm pretty good with anything as long as it's fun, fast, well-mannered, so to speak. But what I like about animation is that anything is possible in this world. And it's sort of everybody's dream to be animated. You watch cartoons as a kid and all of a sudden you yourself want to enter that world because it's just better than your own world in some respects. Although if anything can happen, bad things can happen too. I trust these guys though.
Yeah, but even if bad things happen, you can get revived and stuff like that in the animated world, so...
Resurrection.
Yeah.
Resurrection. These are quite good.
They are.
They're quite good. It's purple Benny Emo from Okinawa.
Okinawa. This is some of the good stuff from Okinawa. It's an interesting palette.
All right. So last time, this really fun sketch of yours truly, and I asked the question: hat or unhat, hat or no hat. Overwhelmingly, there was a very good divide. It was like 50-50 to make it more complicated. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we'll surprise you with that. Today, I'm not wearing a hat. My hair's a disaster. I actually combed it. It doesn't work at all. So that's one reason why I wear a hat. All right. So the way I look is pretty cool. What do you guys think? You can leave a comment below. Should I look older or younger? I can't look any younger. Any changes with this? Look, to me, I'm quite satisfied. I don't mind. People, when they look at it, they know it's me.
Yeah.
Gives a little bit more sun, though.
It seems like almost everyone says hat. You're all like, hat.
Yeah, there's a lot of hat people.
Voice of Reason says the hat needs to turn around if it stays. You got like
Voice of Reason says hat must turn around. Yeah.
I like that.
Looks older. Yeah.
It's a hat. Not that many people wear this hat these days. You know, we could wear. It's a hat world.
It's a hat world. I think the hat's good.
Cat in the hat.
Yeah, then we were going through. So like John said, he had changed everything because I guess initially we were gonna have just we were gonna kind of focus on like John's upper torso and just kind of have him spinning around, and then have whatever characters you guys came up with, like going around him. But then
Originally, it was
Yeah.
this. It was like he's in the middle, and then he kind of twirls around, and as he twirls around, the world changes in front of him. We had kind of edited it so that it was cropped more up to his face, so that we're really looking at just his head looking around, and then lots of things happening as you know, the world of Japan gets introduced around.
That sounds
him.
like a great idea.
It was a great idea. It really was.
it's funny.
But then John had a different idea, and I think we're moving forward with that one. So you want to explain?
Yeah, so then John was like, oh man, like, you know, I read everyone's comments, and then I had this epiphany that I wanted to just,
You know how to spell that?
it's epiphany, EPIPHANY.
Oh, impressive.
Easy word.
I wouldn't know if you spelled it wrong.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, I'm going to assume he spelled it right.
Yeah, I hope so. Someone's gonna tell me you spelled it wrong. I don't know, but like so, you know, but John had a really good idea based off of, like, you know, we were just going through all the comments, and then mixing up some of the things that you guys came up with. He decided to go a different route. We were actually obviously surprised by that because we were just ready to go. But the idea they came up with is really good. I don't know if you want to explain it. Should we explain it?
Oh yeah, we can. I can try to explain it. So like, what we had earlier was really good, but I needed something that could be watched like 500 million times and people wouldn't get bored with it. I think maybe this is better, but I could be wrong because I'm wrong often. So what we had before was something that's similar to this. And this was not the inspiration. This was a coincidence that I saw this. It's a comedian on Netflix.
Are you going to have the...
It was sort of pivoting around, like the screen in Japan was all around me, like a 360. I saw this on Netflix the other day. I browsed through and I saw this one. It's kind of cool like that. Now I'd be all illuminated and it would be animation, but yeah, I said that's pretty cool. But I don't know. Can we watch that 500 million times? What can we do with more action? But we had things crawling all over my face and things blowing out of my ear. Actually, it does sound like a pretty cool idea. How deep are we in this? But I do like this idea too. Why don't you explain it and then I can confirm or deny.
And then the idea that John had was that we'd have, you know, he wanted to kind of see more of the world and start on a train, and we were trying to
Shinkansen.
on a Shinkansen.
We can do a slower train if it's too fast.
Yeah, right. It's kind of, it's all over 500 kilometers.
The
an hour.
design is yeah. Shinkansen's okay.
Shinkansen, you know,
500 or
it's-
No
700.
difference. No difference.
you think of the bullet
Nozomi
train.
or Hikari.
Yeah. I know. So usually when you think of Japan, you think of the bullet train. So right. So John decided to have the Shinkansen, and the Shinkansen, he would be riding on top of the Shinkansen, and then along with him on the Shinkansen would be all the characters that you guys have come up with. The train would be just kind of going past different areas of Japan, the countryside, the city,
Awesome.
and you know, old Japan, you know, Meiji area, things like
Well,
that, Edo area, and then it would come to the foreground.
Well, so last time we were talking about how we have like 10-ish seconds, right? Which is a lot of time, but at the same time, it's not a lot of time. If you try to cut to too many things, like lots of sequences. So some of the suggestions that came in were like, oh, he should travel to lots of specific different areas in Japan. But within 10 seconds, unless you're talking about just flashing there and then getting out, it wouldn't really work. So we were talking about how to apply that to this train idea, and what we basically came up with, if I'm understanding it correctly, is John's riding on a Shinkansen, right? The Shinkansen starts slightly in the distance, right? So we do get to see the entire world of Japan, right? That before John comes at the screen. So we do get to see the background now. We get to see the world that this Shinkansen is traveling in. The Shinkansen does, you know, kind of curve and come right at the screen. And when it does, we kind of zoom up to John riding on top of it, right? And essentially we do zoom up into his face and do the original idea anyway, but he's on the Shinkansen now. So He's riding on top of the Shinkansen. There's other characters on top of the Shinkansen
Wait,
as well.
let me stop here. We got a super important question.
Okay, Mr. Potter asks. It's slightly off topic.
Go for
Does
it.
this need music too?
Yeah, I think we need music.
yeah.
Jeez. Okay, hold on. So Mr. Potter writes in, Arthal, who, hold on.
There's the music.
Arthel, who does your braids, man? Who does your braids?
Those are braids. You know, so obviously that's actually a good question. Being in Japan is actually really hard to find people who can, braid hair or do this consistency of hair. So I found a great shop in Shinjuku called PBE. I think it's Professional Braids Extensions, and it's owned by. I always get the countries wrong. I hope she's from Cameroon. I think she's from Cameroon.
That's a lot of information. Henry, who does your braids?
Oh.
It's like the same person who does mine, bro.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Potter, for the totally irrelevant question. It's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay.
But just to finish, I was pretty much done explaining though. Like, we essentially just start by taking a view of the world we're in. John enters the shot via riding on top of a Shinkansen with a lot of other characters on top of it also that we'll only see briefly because, it's moving quickly and we're getting the camera up into John's face. But nevertheless, they will be there hanging off the sides and stuff like that. And then once we're at John's face, we give one spin around his face, just like the original idea that we already had. And that's when the different things are shooting off in the background and, we get to see all of the things that we made the list
Best
of
of
last
both
time.
worlds.
And then kind of once the camera comes around to the back of his head, maybe he just shoots off into the distance. So the same idea as last time, actually, just with an intro and outro of you entering via Shinkansen with lots of characters around you.
Right. Thank you, Anil. She said enjoyed tea time, and he said enjoyed tea time. And Gretchen says I'm watching with my nurse Susie. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Susie.
Hello, Susie.
All right. That sounds cool to me, and I actually like the original idea too. I don't know. People just seem to like the train. I don't know. How much harder is this to do than the original idea?
The original idea was much simpler. So if we were to, I don't even know what would be, like 1 to 10 or something like that.
Okay.
But the original idea, let's say 10 being the most difficult. The original idea was perhaps like I don't know, 3 or something. Now or 2. Trains, any kind of vehicle is actually difficult to animate, and all animators have because it is moving in perspective and moving in space.
And let's actually throw this out there because I'm interested. I actually don't know what the people will say to this, and I'm curious to hear what you say. So if we're animating a train moving through space, zooming around a camera, I'm just gonna throw this out there. It's gonna be 3D. It's gonna be a 3D train. Awesome. So would you? For the anime fans out there, or anyone watching this, do you care when 3D elements are kind of put into 2D anime? Would you rather just stick with 2D from start to finish, or are 3D elements okay when you see it?
So is there a difference? Like you can...
As an animator, I notice the difference, but that's my question. Like, I don't know if fans actually do care, Like, maybe they don't. I mean, a lot of anime does have 3D elements, so maybe it doesn't make a difference to the average fan. To me, as an animator, I prefer to not put in 3D elements as much as possible. So when I hear a train or a car or something like that with all of these really difficult movements and not a lot of schedule to do it in, my mind immediately goes to, well, that element is probably going to have to be 3D. And personally, as an animator, it turns me off a little bit. But again, the fans might not care at all. I don't know.
What can you give us as an example of maybe this 3D world entering
you can
the 2D
animate.
world?
Oh, you mean example of an animation?
So like this? Like right now, I'm entering the 3D
well,
world.
No, I think like so with 3D and 2D, that is 3D perspective or 3D space, right? So anything, 3D is kind of anything that moves in and out of space. But 3D, like now, 3D animation is essentially just anything done inside of the computer because even when you draw, um, even when you draw, you still have to use 3D. Like technically, you're still drawing in space, right? You want to
Japanese animation is
but-
very three-dimensional. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, well, illustration, animation, anything that you use X, Y, Z axis in perspective is 3-dimensional. But I guess the only true difference between 3D is that like you can move an object because the object has all the sides, right? And so if you're using a computer, you can turn it around and the back of it and the left side, even though you can't see it, it exists in space. But when you're drawing on a piece of paper, there is no back or left or right. So that's the only true difference, the difference between the two. But when you're drawing, you want to give that impression that there is a left and right side. So you're always drawing in and in space. But
Is it the lighting that makes it 3D?
no, it's just the lines. So
The
I
lines.
guess I can
Okay.
kind of, I guess. So for example, if I drew it's easier for me to draw a flat surface.
While you're drawing, I have a. Oh, you can. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay,
go ahead.
sorry.
No,
Oh.
go ahead. Do it. Do it. Do
No,
it.
you can do your question.
Well, I just got Nosh Abroad writes in. I would start from the inside of the train with John's. This is literally Henry's already going. Sorry, Nosh. Henry's going. Yeah, we actually talked about this too, and I got the same.
Do you know why?
Wait, hold on. Let me finish this one. I would start from the inside of the train with John's profile, and the world rushes by outside through the window. Then the camera would zoom, jump out of the window into the world outside.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Can we change it?
That's funny.
Thanks, Mr. Potter.
What did
Thanks,
mine
Nosh.
dying say? I don't even know.
There's a reason where that almost you never see a sequence where like the background, a 2D background is fully animated and moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know. I mean, there's examples of it you can find. You search all the Sakuga sites and stuff. You can find examples where like the background is fully moving. Hunter x Hunter, the original series, had one sequence where Kurapika is walking through the like hotel and like the whole background's moving. But the reason that they do it so rarely is because that is just ridiculous, massive amounts of work. But beyond that, the chance of something going wrong is massive, right? And if something's going wrong and like some aspect of the background looks wonky or flickers or wasn't in between correctly, it'll really jump out. So that's why usually
I think that's the
backgrounds are
key.
still-
So the and that's one of the keys that Henry said. Like there's opportunities for things to go wrong. So anytime you animate anything that's complex, there's possibilities of things going wrong. So with and that's the only reason why people use 3D now, to make it simpler. But of course you can animate in perspective, and I think the you just need time. Like the more time you have, that way the more time you have to correct your errors and go over it over and over, then you can do it. Because it's not that you can't animate. Like actually,
can do anything.
we animated the doll sequence, the train that's in the beginning of that is actually animated frame by frame. But that just took a long time because you want to make sure that the train actually looks like it's moving in space. You have a lot of little squares. But if you have a short time, then it's much faster to just do it in 3D. And that's the only... Well, it was supposed to be faster, but now, it's the same. It seems that it starts to take up the same amount of time. But
Good time.
That's good
You time with the
timing.
music.
That's
I don't know
funny.
how well you can hear the music, anyways.
Yeah, that's funny. But just a really simple, easy concept of like 3D and 2D, right? So this is just a flat square. You can't see any of the sides. And then this one, you can see the top and the left. But now, of course, this is not true 3D. This is just an illusion of 3D, right? Because the I don't know, what is this, the right side? Or is this the left? I can't tell. But this is, I think, the right side. And then the bottom and the back don't exist. But obviously in the computer world, the sides that you can't see exist, so that's true 3D. But this is illusion, right? And
It's just an illusion. You do
effectively-
not need glasses to watch this opening.
It's
You would
not
not
really
need
coming
glasses.
forward, right, or anything like that.
So 2D would be basically the train would not move. We wouldn't have shadows. It
No,
would be-
it would, and
Okay.
so it's just.
It's like,
What Arthel is explaining here is kind of just the principles of
Okay.
3D, right? But what I'm talking about with the train is you know, 2D meaning you draw it every frame, right? So if I draw a train, and we did it for Shoujo no Piero, the doll, the short that we did, but it was just for one sequence, and it did take quite a few retakes to kind of finesse it and get it working, because you're drawing a train 100 times, right? And so obviously there's going to be little things that pop up.
Wait, do you have to draw the train each time?
Every time.
Every time a new train.
Every time.
Every time the train
because
is
it's
moving into space.
Yeah. So it's just like 100 drawings of a train looking
And
slightly
it's-
different each
yeah.
time, which is why
You'd have to
doing
kind
it
of-
2D, like it would take a feature film. Like you do see it in feature films. Like if you think of like Tekken Concrete or like some really high budget films, like then you have cameras zooming through the cities and stuff. If it's a feature film that there's time for and you have really great artists working on, you can do anything. But if we're dealing with something that needs to be done relatively shortly, then rather than draw that train hundreds of times, the only way to get that done fast is to build a 3D model of it. So, you know, the difference between Dragon Ball Z and Toy Story is very obvious, right? 3D animation, 2D animation, right? So this would be an example of, it would integrate pretty well, actually. I think we could integrate the 3D train really well, but it still is 3D. It's a 3D element. It's a different type of animation inserted directly into another type of animation.
Would it be faster just to set up a model train Shinkansen in a blue screen and then just run that through and animate all
Then
around
you're
it?
getting really artsy
That's
fartsy.
a-
that would be a weird.
Oh, Mr. Potter has more irrelevant questions.
Go for it.
Is it irrelevant or
this
relevant?
one's more relevant. It's on topic. It's an interesting
Okay.
idea. So Mr. Potter says 3D anime is the future of anime. Same thing could be said about CGI. A lot of people didn't accept it at first, but I think 3D anime will eventually be accepted by hardcore anime fans. So that's an interesting concept, I guess. There's two different ways to think about it. If you ask me, do I think that 3D anime is the future of anime? I wouldn't necessarily say it's the future of anime, meaning that there wouldn't that means that is evolution, right? Then there would be nothing else before. Then there's no more 2D anime. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's because 3D anime and 2D anime, or just 3D animation, 2D animation, it really just depends on what people like and what they want for it. It's you can the easiest way that I think that you can decide the two, or an analogy I can give is films is the future of stage, for example. So there's no more plays. Let's not have stage plays anymore. Let's just only have feature films. Let's not have
TV show.
yeah, let's not. So now we're switching for like CG comes out, right? 3D films with Avatar or whatever, anything where all 3D characters. So let's not use real people anymore. Let's just only make films with realistic looking 3D characters. And when you think about it that way, it's kind of like, well, no, I still want to see real people acting, right? Or I still want, and so I think it just becomes a personal choice, or like a choice of the studio, right? Do you want to have people actually draw the characters and you want to see something that was drawn this way, or do you want to see 3D film? So I think that it's best to just have all options.
I think that can I get in here?
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
I think that naturally, as people make new projects, there will be some 3D anime that is really great, right? There'll be a feature film one day where everyone goes, whoa, this 3D anime is absolutely amazing. That will eventually happen. And so in that sense, I think it will be more accepted, right? As people make cooler things, it'll just become more popular. That being said, Japanese anime will, I think, remain 2D, and that's what the market out here wants. That's what everyone wants to see. 3D anime will become more accepted, but at its core, Japanese anime is always going to be a 2D medium.
It's going to be a 2D medium. So we got a couple of follow-ups here. 3D is easier because it's a single model being used. Hold on a second. And manipulated so it doesn't need to be redrawn, only changed slightly for each frame.
Keep in mind though,
Thank you, Houston.
the reason I even mentioned it though is because you are still going to be 2D, so it's integrating 2D characters and 3D elements, right? So if this I think went off into a much longer conversation than I was expecting it to. I was just pointing out if we really want to keep this idea of he's riding on a train and the camera's moving around the train, we have to make that train 3D. That's the only realistic way I can see to finish this quickly. So what do you guys think of that? Like, is that cool? I guess what I'm looking for is if there's like 50 comments where it's like, oh, I don't want to see a 3D train, just have the 2D John there.
2D.
So if the comments are no, just have the 2D John, then maybe it's not the best idea. But again, I don't know.
I kind of disagree because they're not saying that they want 2D John. They're saying that they want a 2D train, which can be drawn, but it's just that you just need more time. And I don't think that. Like Henry said, it's not that. Actually, one person made a comment that said that 3D is much easier because you can have a 3D object and spinning around. Like our CG director will obviously have a better grasp on this, but it's not that 3D is easier because if it was, Pixar wouldn't take like 3 years to make a movie or something, right? Like it's not that 3D is easier. You still have to rig and you still have to build the model. You still have to do everything that you would technically do on a piece of paper. Now you just have a machine helping you, assisting you, right? So it's only taking some of the problems out of the equation, but you still have that much more.
And new problems are added.
Yeah, you have new problems,
too, especially when integrating 2D.
And it's not like you could just put a 3D square on a space and say, okay, move train, right, or something. Like it doesn't work like that. But
it's just much more complicated than we realize. Yeah. Unless you're in the world, then you realize it. I think I honestly that's the best answer. I think. Gretchen, there are monsters. We have yokai. Maybe
yokai was my favorite comment from last time. Last
we
time
have yokai. They're monsters.
Yeah, the whole topic was like, what elements do we want to see in here? And we got a whole bunch of responses, all of which were really good. But yokai stood out to me because it was one that I really hadn't thought of before I heard the comment.
Yeah.
And that really is a great idea. So there will definitely be yokai in there. We all like that idea. So we're going to pick out a bunch from...
and I think that's kind of a good segue into the next segment, right?
Yeah.
To talk about.
Let's move on to the next one. Do we need music for that, or just?
Of course we need music.
Inappropriate and irresponsibly placed music. Let's see what we got here. Okay, here we go. All right. Now let's segue into the next.
To our next
segment, which is.
Discussing the characters and things that John felt that John went through all the comments and some of his a lot of the videos and things that are on the Only in Japan. So if you haven't checked that out, please check it out. And shows characters from everyone's comments and from the videos that he thought would be good to kind of show. And so we wanted to show everyone from the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, what we chose from everything that you guys said. And so here we are. So this is the list of the characters, and we're just kind of go through one by one, I guess. So the first...
Okay, if this is not working, this music, sorry, I'm just going to have to cut the music. That was good for a while, but...
Yeah, so first we have a sumo wrestler, a samurai, like some form of a samurai, geisha, a sushi chef, ninja, and elderly folk, right? Old woman, old man, because in Japan, there's lots of old folk.
Yeah, that's what I requested that seniors were represented in this. Because most of my friends are seniors, and I'm not talking about my friend Peter. He's in his 50s. He just turned. I shouldn't even say his age. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Okay, and then those were the characters. I think like sort of people, and then this section is more like the personified thing. So we have sushi. Wagyu, or Japanese beef. Wagyu. And takoyaki.
Is the Wagyu alive, or is it a steak, or is it moving?
I liked your idea, which was kind of twisted, but I love twisted. Yeah. So it's like it's alive, and then boom, It's me.
It's a cow. It's a cow, and then it's like. Yeah, that's.
I mean, it would be cutesy animation. We're not looking for gory, so it would just be like it's walking, and it could be all cutesy character design, and then just like stars and sparkles, beef.
For the record, Arthel does not eat meat. Just so.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of people like that's so, crude. But I don't eat meat either. But it's animation. It's animation.
Anything can happen in the animated world.
If it's an issue, we could have the beef have like a smiley face, like it's still okay.
Nosh writes in, be sure to include a JoJo reference.
We cannot use. So we had that topic last time.
Yeah.
Although that you said that, I must point out, little shameless self promotion. The new episode of JoJo airing tonight. Our studio did a whole bunch of secondary key animation on that. So look out for today's episode of JoJo.
Yes.
Awesome. That almost warrants its own music, but yet I'm a little bit freaked out from the last 1980s cop music. So let's move on. So this is really good. So we have a really fantastic. I'm just gonna turn the camera on so then you guys can take a look at the list here. This is the only in Japan board that we have here.
To finish up, because I think Arthel ended at Wagyu,
Takoyaki.
prayer sheets, flying kimono. I'm not sure what flying means.
Flying. I guess the kimono is like a butterfly and it's flying. I don't know, just ideas.
Yokai, and I really like this one. That's gonna happen. There's gonna be a few yokai.
Yeah, he loves the yokai.
Toilets, the special Japanese.
Oh, I love the toilets. Yeah.
Ramen, vending machines, square watermelon, manga books, and
manhole covers.
Yes.
Manhole covers.
Which is big in Japan.
Manhole.
Yeah. And
Hola.
depending on which city you're in or which section of Japan you're in, take photos of those things.
Yeah.
Of course, toilets. People go, toilets? Toilets! Japanese toilets are one of the most Googled things on Google. Like, about Japan. Toilets! Like, what?
Yes.
I know. And I helped fuel this 5 years ago. One of my first episodes that went viral was the amazing Japanese toilet. Go back and watch that in the playlist.
There's like a dozen buttons on it.
Yeah.
I know. Remote controls. Bluetooth.
Yeah.
There's an app now that will analyze your urine to tell you if you're, eating too much salt in your diet, etc., etc.
You must have to have like a very specific toilet for that, though, right?
For the app, you mean? Or to connect it to your cell phone?
Well, the toilet just gives off its own Wi-Fi, just like a camera. But there's no camera in the toilet, although I did put my GoPro in one once.
That can't work for every toilet, though, does it?
No, only the one.
Just
Only
the
the
only
one
one.
that
It gives off its
Okay,
own
yeah.
distinctive Wi-Fi that connects with the
interesting.
app, etc., etc. It's nothing like a good Wi-Fi. Bluetooth 5.0 toilet.
This is a.
Do not settle for anything less than 5.0.
I guess your toilet's good, but does it have Bluetooth?
Wow. See, this is interesting. Can John grow to 50 feet and battle a kaiju?
No.
No. No, he can't.
The reason it's no, and the reason it's no to most of the comments is just to go back to the original point, which is that it's just a 10-second opening. Like, I would love a kaiju battle as much as the next guy, but that's if it was a 5-minute, anime episode.
Yeah.
For 10 seconds, if we're having a kaiju fight, then that's it. Then all of this is thrown back into the garbage, and then it's just 10 seconds of a kaiju fight, right? So that's why we can't do that or any other kind of ideas that bring us to different locations.
So how many objects can we have? So we have here.
We can have all these. All this is fine. Yeah.
Now these on the top here, these are characters sitting on the train behind me. Sumo wrestler, sushi chef, samurai, ninja, geisha, and an elderly folk, and maybe a schoolgirl. I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess we should put Scooter.
So we have here. So I want to say thank you to Toon Boom. Toon Boom, big shout out to Toon Boom that makes the Harmony software, which is what we're going to be doing to make this. These are the Toon Boom characters, and out of appreciation, we might, slip 1 or 2 or 3 of these beautiful people in there.
Somewhere.
Actually, the boy does look like me, actually, sort of. Slightly.
That
Wait a
is you, that
second.
is you.
Wait, I am the Toon Boom mascot? What? That's totally me! What is it going on here? No! I don't... Really? Thank you.
Incidentally, these are redesigned Toon Boom mascots.
Okay.
By our character designer.
Redrawn.
Yeah.
Oh, they're cute.
Oh, sorry, not redesigned, just redrawn to bring it up to this style. To see the originals,
Please check that site.
check out.
Go check out the Toon Boom
check out
website.
Specifically
Japan.
the Japanese
Japan
site.
one. Yeah.
So I'm really happy to have their support for this because yeah.
And then we have
They're
one
pros,
more of a
yeah.
list because obviously you guys had a lot of comments. So we were separating by humanoid figures, then objects, the personified objects that would be moving and be characterized. And then there's things that would be like background elements because a lot of you had mentioned things within the city. So I'll go down that list really quickly. So urban stuff, and then trains, taxis, which is kind of big in Japan. Or trains, of course, like Shinkansen. And then Japan does have a huge train culture here. What do you call them? Densha otaku? Or
Yeah,
like
densha
otaku,
yeah, otaku.
Densha otaku, right? The people who love to take photos of trains and things like that. There's lots of amazing types of trains in Japan. Crowds of people, colorful signs, skyscrapers, towers, one or two famous monuments from one of the cities, Mount Fuji separating the cities and the countryside.
This is the background, right? The
Yeah,
background.
these are background elements. Tori, which means gate in Japanese, right? So, the really big red gates.
Gates to the Shinto shrines. Yeah.
To the Shinto shrines. And shrines, perhaps Kinkakuji, rice paddies, farmers, old folk.
I like old.
Again.
I love old
Old
people.
folk again.
If they're small and kind and big smiles. I don't know.
Yes. And,
I like people.
Ancient village, old wooden buildings, an onsen town, and Dogo onsen.
Dogo Onsen is that's the Sento Chihiro Spirited Away inspiration. It's an old building that looks very Japanese.
That's right. That Sakura, we forgot. I forget. We always,
Sakura,
we will have
matcha.
forgetting to write it down.
There's a bazillion ideas out there. I mean, in the background, like bento boxes and stuff like that. It's all background stuff.
All the characters and elements that will be like just popping up or like slipped in there real small in the background, zips by, things like that. All of these can be included and fit somewhere in there, right? You can always find some little way to fit it in the background. As far as locations, like like buildings and vehicles and stuff like that, there's only so much background that you're gonna see through this like pan, of this opening. And so Arthel is an amazing background artist. He's gonna fit as much as he possibly can, but it may be impossible to fit that in just one long panning background, right? Mm-hmm. So to the extent that he can, he'll add stuff, but these are easy to add. Locations and things, there is only so much space, in the back there.
Yeah.
It sounds so evil.
Oba-san.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Things are impossible.
Dun, 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 dun. The backgrounds
Possible.
are possible.
Sorry, the music can totally change the mood of a meeting. I think more meetings should have randomly placed music to angry music. When the boss is angry, then the boss knows he's angry because we hear the music. But yeah, you're right. It's I think the background is what we were talking about. I was so focused on the music.
Different things
that will be in the backgrounds, and everything that's here and everything in this list will be somewhere in animation, and it will be more than what's here, in some shape or form. There's lots of that's the great thing about animation.
Maid cafe. Cassie will have maybe maids. Although the one girl looks sort of maidy. Gretchen and a camera in John's hand. Gretchen, that's the only Japan Go channel. This is for the main channel. I use professional stuff, so I don't have a vlogging technique with that. Yeah. So no selfie sticks in the main channel. It's professionally run, professionally done channel.
It's professionally done.
Can I get that evil music back?
Does anyone have any questions about anything?
Let's go ahead and run through the questions. This is the extent of where we are. We have kind of mock-ups of the characters. We have a list of what they're going to be starting to do. Now it's up to you guys. If you have an 86 is what we use in the restaurant business to say, cut it out. If you have an 86. Let me know. You can hashtag 86 in there. Don't hashtag any other numbers. I know what some of you high schoolers are thinking. I would have tagged, because that's what I would have tagged.
It's funny.
Never
I don't
mind.
even know what he's talking
You don't
about.
even know what I'm
80,
talking
87?
about. 80. It's a number in above 50, but below 80, 86.
Okay.
Yeah, Attack on Titan. I wish we could do stuff, but we can't do copyrighted stuff. I think that would not be good. Like every video is demonetized automatically and then
Yeah.
killed in the Google search because we were using Attack on Titan. That's not going to happen.
That's a good comment. If the background gets too busy, we'll miss objects in the foreground from voice of reason. You know, that's interesting because that is something that we have to deal with, right? We have to think about that very carefully. Like, how do we, you know, that's with all animation or films in general, right? Composition. Like, how are you going to not detract from?
Well, I want to point this out, voice of reason people, okay? First of all, welcome and goodbye. Because look, you're going to be watching this opening like 500 times. Like every time an episode comes up, you're going to be watching a Busy. You're going to be discovering new things each time you watch it. Busy is not always bad. It might be if you watch it once, but if you watch it over and over again, the idea is to have an opening that stands the test of time, that always has something kind of interesting going on, that maybe you discover a year later, like, you know.
Yeah. So busy. So yeah, I think busy is not really a bad thing. It's like you can have, you know, like stuff for people, for everyone to kind of look in there and see it. And then, you know, there's lots of ways that we can play around with the color and stuff, so that even though it's like you can have 100 things, but it just kind of, it's because of the colors that we use, it seeps in the background, and then that way it doesn't detract away from it.
How do you feel about that, Henry?
I agree. I also agree with Voice of Reason. Well, just because
I knew it.
Because
I knew it. All right, go ahead.
well, there's a difference between there's a million things on the screen and it's organized, and there's even 20 things on the screen that's radically unorganized, right? If he paints some amazing shrine that's in this list in the background, but we clutter the foreground so much that you never even actually see it beyond like through little cracks in between the characters, then that's unorganized, right? Because you actually don't get to see all of the things. So I think it needs to be busy but clean. That's so
Yeah. So and I think that's what all three, like, you know, all three of us are gonna have to kind of battle with, to kind of make sure that it does have that interesting busy, right? The fun busy.
Yeah.
It's a busy but clean, right? And so not too, you know, where it's just a big distraction and we're just kind of staring at it like, what is this, right? And you know, and then I always think that's the professional's job, right? To be able to show everything and not be distracting. So.
Right. Yeah. Great. This is good. So what's the next step after this? We're gonna see some of your feedback. I want you to leave a comment below in the comments on what you think about all of this. What are some of your suggestions? What are the things we should leave out and not leave out? One of them was we shouldn't have schoolgirls in there, but it's actually one of the characters of one of the So we're probably gonna put her on there. She's a character for Toon Boom, right? So, or maybe the little doggy. Is it a cat? It's a cat dog. So I mean, it's not like it's a random schoolgirl. It's a distinctively decided schoolgirl, and it's very iconic in Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like there's nothing wrong.
In manga, you'll see it all over the place, right?
Yeah, there's nothing. There shouldn't be a negative connotation to a schoolgirl, right? It's just a person in a school outfit and a school uniform. You know, in America, most of the schools are public and they don't have uniforms. You wear whatever you want. In Japan, all the schools wear uniforms essentially. Well, there are some that are.
I would have a problem if my mother was wearing a schoolgirl outfit.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, right?
That's the difference.
Where you start going off into kind of.
Mom, don't do it.
She
watches this too.
Yeah. When you start going off when you're like fetishizing something, that's totally different. And you can do that with anything, right? You can do that with the yokai. You can fetishize ramen. And I think
the internet can fetishize it.
Yeah, the internet can fetishize anything.
Really?
And then that's not our goal, right? You know? And I don't think you should. And if you look at schoolgirls like that, that's your
problem.
You have to go to a psychologist, you know, and perhaps. But A psychiatrist.
That's
sorry,
not as bad as
psychologist.
Quack, you just say
fetishizing.
quack.
Quack.
So someone was posting like, we need more Pokemon. We need more Pokemon. You got people out there fetishizing Pokemon.
Yeah. What do you
Pokemon
call
would
it?
be tough, yeah.
The
Furries.
the furries.
Although I don't know if because
okay.
furries, I think you can make your own character, something like that. But
Although I do like a good,
Pokemon.
animal outfit. No. Just kidding. Next thing you know, people are like, Arthel's a furry. I'm not a furry.
Yeah, we're not gonna have a shamisen in this one. So sorry, Cassie. But we're gonna keep it kind of like the vibe of. Yeah, I don't want it. I want it to be kind of new, but I also want to keep it sort of like the vibe, and the music is going to be changed a little bit, but it's not going to be too different from the original. Basically, I want to kind of keep the vibe of the original opening, but just add to it and just evolve it. So basically, Shinkansen's riding like 2D, and you see the background of Japan, so you feel like you're in Japan, and the Shinkansen comes straight at the camera. And then you'll see me for a second, and then all the characters on the train. You'll see them also profile sitting on the train, right? And then we go out, and then you see the train maybe in the distance, and then more Japanese background, so you feel like it. And the logo plugs up, and then Peter says, "Only in Japan," just like Peter always does. And the music is a little bit different. Maybe you hear some sound effects of the Shinkansen, some sound effects of taxis, some sound effects of people, some sound effects. Who's been making videos for a very long time, not just for the internet, but for TV. Sound is one of the biggest underappreciated things that professionals that make lighting and sound are two things that don't really resonate well with new creators. You can have a visual and a beautiful camera. Its sound can be sometimes the difference between a pro and an amateur.
Yeah.
So we're going to be
So true.
right. So we can add in sound effects that are very distinctive to Japan inside of the music that make you feel like, wow, that complement the anime, and I think that and we're gonna have a pretty amazing opening with this. I think.
John, you asked what does it look like moving forward, right?
Yeah.
How does it? Okay, so here's how we move forward. We've had 2 meetings now about, hey, what should the idea be, right? And we have this list now, and people keep sending stuff in with the list. I suppose there's still 20 minutes or whatever where you can suggest different ideas. How we move forward is we decide on what it looks like, right? Mm-hmm. We decide, okay, it is going to be the train, and then, internally we talk about more specific things like how many seconds exactly before the train turns, how many seconds are we at just your face, how many seconds does the logo hold.
Right.
Once we decide on that, we have to then lock into that, and then kick it over to the storyboard artist to start making it. And once we dive into really making it, then we have to just make it, right? So then there's no more talk of wouldn't it be cool to have, and wouldn't it be cool if we did this instead. The way we move forward is we lock all that in, throw away the key, and then produce. Right?
Okay.
So
Go through character design.
We're close to locking it in.
We're locking the characters.
Yeah.
We first have to actually do the
load.
drawings, but and then we'll draw all the characters, and so we can't have more because we need to get all the characters done, all the designs done, all the work done. So that way the storyboard artist knows what they're drawing.
Yeah.
And then so as Henry said, we can't keep changing ideas. So now we're just gonna sort of
we've been in the change mode, and your comments have been vital in order to make this even better. The Hachiko statue flying by would be iconic. There's so many things flying by, but then again, all right. We can get lost in too much floating by, and this is where things. And is it hard to add things flying by?
It depends. If you say at the very end, hey, could you throw in the Hachiko statue? How it's flying is not explained. It's just, one little drawing of it, and it's way back there in the background. Oh, look at that going up into the sky.
Yeah.
That's doable. Yeah. If it's, hey, can we add that as also an element that kind of comes forward
on the train with me on my shoulder?
There's in between animation for it. That then you can't.
All right, background. Sarumaru, thank you very much for that. Nasha Broad asks a really good question because you know what? His image is, look, he just wants to make it with John and Japan. Just keep it simple.
I'm sorry.
But that's not your idea.
But that's not my idea. So I mean, like, there's two ways you can go. Well, you throw everything at it. The thing is, Nosh, I think that the opening is I'm not against that, but I want you to try to imagine having to look at this 500 million times viewed on YouTube. You have to find something that is just, it's like, wow. And I kind of want to start from there because it has taken elements from the last 5 years, but it's still true to what Only in Japan is, where the music doesn't change that much, and Peter still says Only in Japan, and I'm still there. I'm never really the main focus of this series. I might be the guy who edits it, and my process is still me from start to finish, and hopefully that changes someday, because it's kind of a lot of work. But it's also a topic-driven series, meaning I find a topic or a story or a person or some kind of food, and that becomes what we focus on because it's about the information on it. So I kind of want to have not me in the middle of everything, but although I sort of am, but to have Japan, to give you more of a feeling of what Japan is and how I felt about Japan the first time I got off an airplane and I saw what was around me. I'm like, whoa, this is not, America anymore. This is a place that is so like different than it's almost exactly how I imagined it, and yet it's so different than how I had imagined it. Japan to me is like that, and I kind of want to give you that feeling, that magical feeling that we can only do with anime. I can do me turning around in a chair, and it's just me in Hachiko Scramble with a camera, and I'd be finished in 5 minutes. I want to do something that only anime can do, and that's the power of anime. It can make the impossible possible. I should have used music with that.
Yeah.
I know. What did I miss the music? Oh, I messed that up.
That was nice.
I'm gonna make the possible possible, the impossible possible. But I get the feeling. I don't want it to be too much, but I do. I want it to be too much. Because Japan seems to go, in a way, it's like overboard. It is like on another level. Am I right or am I right?
That is Japan, right?
Yeah.
Just stuff everywhere, just overloading your senses, both visually and
overloading your senses. I like this. Somebody trademark that.
Put it on
Art
a t-shirt. Put it on a t-shirt.
November 2018. Done.
I'm reading just people's comments. Like that's why I'm staring at the screen. By the way,
Right,
Anyone's
right.
wondering,
No, I keep staring down.
I'm
I'm really bad at this.
But like,
You've just become a meme.
What is with some of these? Like, someone just commented, like, is there going to be more Cowboy Bebop? Like, what are you talking about? We're not related to Cowboy Bebop production whatsoever.
It's Arthel.
Show.
Henry and Arthel. Yeah. This is D'ART Shtajio, and the link is in the description so you can see some of the work. They're big time guys. They've made, what have you made?
We've worked on quite a few things. Our studio itself, actually, so what we're working on right now is the post that you just seen was called Exogenesis, which is based off of an independent comic and by Johnny O'Brien. So please check him out. He's an NBA basketball player, and it's really interesting. And of course, we've worked on just lots and lots of things. Like Henry said, we're working on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure right now. I've worked on Conan's movies, Naruto's films, Naruto's TV shows.
Well, so Arthel, I guess I was assuming most of the people watched last time too with the introduction, but if that's not the case, we're D'ART Shtajio or D'ART Shtajio. Please give a Google search of that. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter.
The description of the video.
And it'll be in the description. If you just go directly to see what we're posting, you'll see week to week actually what we're participating in at any given time. The stuff we produce in-house are things like the Exogenesis pilot film, different pilot films, Teflon Funk, Indigo Ignited. We've done some commercials for like Adidas and things like that. Those are the things we produce in-house, but then we also, Arthel and I have been in the industry for a long time, years before even starting the company. So in those years, we worked on lots of stuff. I worked at Studio Piero for a little over a year. So Akatsuki no Yona and Tokyo Ghoul, Naruto, and Naruto the Last movie. Arthel worked on other Naruto movies, but at a totally different time and in different context.
Yeah, someone asked about Bleach. Actually, I worked on a Bleach movie. Henry's been in Japan now for what, like 8-9 years now?
9.5. It'll be. I'm almost at the 10-year mark in Japan, and Arthel's longer than me.
Yeah, 13 something. How long have you been in Japan?
Let's not talk about years.
Okay.
Let's talk about months. What's 20 years times 12 months? It's like 240 months. It's a long
To
time.
finish the thought, those were different things that Arthel and I had worked on before opening up D'ART. At D'ART, we've produced the in-house things like I just mentioned, but then also our studio specifically has worked on the recent couple Tokyo Ghoul seasons, the recent couple Overlord seasons, High School DD, Hero, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now the first episode we're working on is airing today, but our studio is working on a handful of episodes for that. So yeah, we while we're producing our own stuff, we're also helping out, with all the big studios projects.
But now we're working on the intro.
And now our next project is the intro to Only in
Intro
Japan.
to Only in Japan.
This is
You need to add a
really
J.J. Abrams anime lens flare. I'm not laughing. That was a real laugh.
Yes.
What do you mean?
It's funny.
Yeah, okay.
When would you add it? With like a twinkle in your eye?
It's just like,
Henry, I love this. Let's incorporate it. I shouldn't have brought that up. All right, guys, we're gonna. So Henry, Arthel, and I, we really need your feedback at this stage, because once things are locked in, like Henry said, it's time to load, and that means we start to work on this. Basically, we cannot change any of the things once we start to lock. And how far are we from the locked?
You as the client will really have to give the okay that things are locked, but the sooner the better. Preferably, you give it right now, and then we move forward with finalizing character designs and perhaps start with storyboards.
I will give the people 24 hours to lock in their comments below, and if you're watching this, hit the like button too if you like what you like here.
Like what you see here.
Like what you see here. Thank you, Henry. Sometimes you just need a little help from your friends. And I'm going to give you guys 24 hours before we lock this in. Basically, I like this idea that we have. It's fun. It's a little bit busy, but in the end, with the sound effect and the music, I think you're going to just have... you're going to get excited about what's up next on Only in Japan, and that's sort of the feeling I want to give you, something that stands the test of time. It's going to be busy, but Japan is a busy place, and I want you to have that feeling where you're not overwhelmed, but you're seeing stuff that you've seen in the show before, and I want you to feel like I felt when I first got off that airplane at the possibility of Japan, which is like, as we said, over the top. It's a lot.
I think everyone does have this experience too. I know when I arrived first thing in Japan, after I took the bus into the city, and I didn't see much on the bus into the city, but the second I got off, I'm right in the middle of Shinjuku, right? And Shinjuku, all the lights. And
Yeah, the neon lights, the Lost in Translation, you never really could, where Bob comes off through the taxi. Yeah, that's actually like lights. Lights is that's one of the most iconic scenes of Tokyo that every single Hollywood production has. There's a pedestrian crosswalk just about 200 meters from Shinjuku, Kabukicho. When you look back at it, you see the trains going by, you see the cars going underneath the Yamanote line, and then you see all the lights of the Kabukicho in Shinjuku just flashing. It's awesome at dusk. That might be one of the backgrounds. I kind of mentioned it. The backgrounds, we're going to lock that in. We're going to lock the characters in. We're going to lock in the assets of things that are flying. So go back and watch this live stream again and put in the description, in the comments below, your ideas, your final ideas on what you would like to see in the Only in Japan main channel opening. I'm not going to be holding a selfie stick. We're not going to be putting in copyrighted animation characters. These are no-brainers, people. Like, how do we... Hold on a sec. We need
and
music.
we're not
with this.
taking the camera on a journey.
We're not taking a
Through the
camera on a
train.
journey through the train,
inside
through
the
the
train.
window, through between the legs of the lady who wheels the sandwiches and coffee on the...
Stick to just
Yeah.
what things show up in the animation or in the intro.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, this is a very dark and dirty animated opening.
Yes.
Things are possible that have never been possible before because this is animation. And in animation, the impossible is possible. And I want you in the comments to write down what is impossible
Yes.
for Henry to say that no, we're not going to be doing that.
That's too much.
Don't we
That's
already
too
have
much.
enough for that?
All right, 24 hours, guys. 24 hours. So basically, on Saturday, at around this time, I'm going to say to Arthel and Henry, we're good to go. This is the way we want to go. And oh, by the way, we got some of these comments, and then I'm going to just cross them off and 86 them. Or we're going to maybe incorporate your idea. So we really need that feedback. Thank you so much for that. Guys, thank you for the hard work. D'ART Shtajio, Arthel and Henry, wonderful, wonderful people. I'm going to leave this here with you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Have a tart. Power up, Okinawa Power. And I want to thank all of you because it's kind of fun to be able to share this experience with you. Now when we watch the Only Japan opening over and over and over again, it will have started from this point. We would have started from, like, right now. And that's kind of exciting. And I want to give a shout out to Toon Boom Animation. Thank you so much for the Harmony software and for the support guys and to these guys too.
Yes,
All right, so now we've decided and we locked and load, and then we get to work. And so this should be done before Christmas. Like he's like his face is like a stone. It's like a moai on Easter Island, like this. No.
If you rush things, it
I
gives
don't wanna rush
less
it.
time to fix mistakes and to finesse. So you never want to do that.
No,
if it's
we want it to be done right. Only Japan comes out like twice a month because I want to get it done right. I want a really beautiful episode, so I want you guys to have as much time as you need. Once we locked it down until it's good. All right, there's no rush,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, it'll be.
there is.
It is
It'll be
well.
timely. It'll
Once we get started for
it'll be
real,
good.
it is. It's 10 seconds, but it's only 10 seconds, so it's not like it won't take forever.
Yeah.
Well, once we get moving, it'll move forward.
Yeah,
I'll move forward. I like the sound of this. Thanks, guys, for that, and thank you all for tuning in. The last 20 seconds
everyone.
will be right now. See you, everybody.
Peace.